Hello, I'm Steve,
And I'm Scott.
and together we are Backyard Musings broadcasting from Apple Valley. It's really windy out there, and we noticed that when we tried to record in the wind, you can hear the so that's why we're inside.
Yeah.
And together we're Backyard Musings, and we're the Science and Technology channel. Got something fascinating for you today. This we're going to be talking about a lake in California, Southern California, that is connected around near Mojave Desert, that kind of area. And Scott's got some history with this. It's crazy, but what we're studying today can lead to what's happening on other planets. So let's get into it. Searles Lake has long been shaped by shifting water levels, volcanic minerals, and evaporite formation. In 2024, satellites captured rare water covering the playa. Its mineral rich brines bear similarities to deposits on asteroid Bennu and Saturn's moon Enceladus, suggesting shared geological processes across the solar system. Would you like to know more?
So water levels at Searles Lake have fluctuated dramatically throughout the Pleistocene, influenced by the region's topography and the availability of water. Located in a closed basin in the Mojave Desert of southeastern California, the lake is part of a system of five interconnected lakes, which I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Familiar with a lot of these lakes, but I didn't know they were interconnected because of the terrain. Um, and once fed by the Owens River, which we've talked a little bit about the Owens River in the past. The river's flow is varied significantly over time due to shifts in climate, tectonic activity, and volcanic events.
Okay, so let's give the background on Searles that you were talking about earlier.
Okay, so this lake, if you guys are familiar with like north southern California, I guess you could say. I don't know if we're into central California yet, but if you're familiar with, well, first of all, if you live in the Los Angeles area, you drink water from the Owens River. That water was captured up in the Owens Valley and in the Sierra range, the High Sierra range, by a guy named forget his first name, but his last name was Mulholland. He's got a drive list named after him. Very famous guy. He developed the aqueduct that comes down from the Owens River and flows into Van Norman Reservoir in just outside of the San Fernando Valley. So all this water, again, that's trapped in the Sierra, snowpack, runoff, whatever, flows in a chain and then eventually Owens Lake, and then it's trapped and brought down in an aqueduct. So it's a fascinating story. He's not a very popular guy up there because he bought up all the water rights from almost every town in that whole area: Bishop, Lone Pine, Big Pine. One of the only towns in that area that didn't sell out their water rights was a little town called Olancha. And to my knowledge, they still are the only ones up there that do not sell their water to, or do not gather, their water's not gathered from them to come down to LA. But anyway, this Searles Lake is quite a ways south, as you can see from the picture, of the Owens Valley and the Owens Lake. So again, I had no idea. I've been to China Lake many times. There's a naval air weapons station there. Ridgecrest is right outside that town. Searles Lake is close to Trona, which is known for sulfur mining, I believe. I mean, it's a really, but the area, you just don't think that because as dry as it is, that the water from the Owens Valley would flow that far down to China Lake and to the Searles Lake. But we're about to talk about that. So, and then of
Okay,
course,
so
did you want to talk about those people that we just moved? This is funny.
yeah, go ahead,
Well,
go ahead, say that.
yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, Steve and I and a guy named Jeff from our church volunteered to help this couple, a couple of ladies move some stuff from one location to another, their apartment. And this lady happened to have a bottle of lake water from this Searles Lake, and she had a whole bunch of rocks and dirt and stuff from this lake. And so, kind of ironic that we're talking about it today. So, but yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, so recent satellite images like the one you're looking at, captured on February 11th, 2024, show Searles Lake and nearby playas typically dry, covered in water following an unusually wet period. In the natural color image, what you're seeing now, the lake appears green with snow visible as white patches. So that lake we're talking about is green.
Yeah.
Okay. The false color image, which you're looking at now, using band 7-2-1, enhances contrast between water and land, depicting snow as light blue, water as dark blue, and vegetation as green. Some of the surface water may also result from brine pumped up during mining operations, which, uh, Scott, you said that your dad and your grandpa were miners in that area.
Yeah. So my grandfather and my great grandfather were mining engineers, and they worked a mine up in the Owens Valley, right outside of Big Pine. And then my grandfather on my mom's side was a miner, and he had claims in Shoshone and in the Death Valley area. So yeah, pretty familiar with all this area, and the it's mineral rich. And then of course our whole Mojave Desert is just full of minerals. We have a huge industry here in our area in cement plants, different grades of cement. But there's three or four cement plants in our valley within 25, 30 miles of each other. So
Yeah,
it's very rich.
borax is mined from this area too.
We had, yeah, in Boron, yep, the borax mine up there that's been there for years, and that was connected at one time to the borax that they mined in Death Valley. So again, it's a long ways away. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the what was it, the 20 mule team trams that they, or not trams, but wagon trains that they used to haul. They'd have mules stretched out, and then they'd have like 3 or 4 carts, wagons that they would haul the borax to get it processed down here. So it's mineral rich area, definitely.
Yeah, so continuing on, result from brine pump up during mining operations. These images were taken by NASA's Terra satellite using the moderate resolution imaging spectroradiometer, MODIS.
During high flow periods on the Owens Lake would spill into China Lake, which again, that's just fascinating to me because of the terrain. Then Searles Lake. Searles would overflow into Panamint Lake, which again is amazing, and then into Lake Manly in Death Valley, which is really fascinating to me because it's again, you'd have to see to look at it on a picture like this, you'd have to understand or be familiar with the terrain. Water levels at Searles Lake sometimes rose as high as 700 feet, which is just fascinating to me, above the current basin floor. When the flow of the river slowed, Searles Lake dried, encouraging the large-scale formation of evaporites, sedimentary deposits of salts produced by the evaporation of water. So, that's another thing about Owens Lake. Most people think of Owens Lake as being dry for the most part. I mean, they've been flowing water into it more and more because of some lawsuits and some other environmental stuff. But that lake used to be deep enough to where they could float a barge and float. They had a mine on one side on the eastern side of the lake, and they would float that barge across the lake to the mill on the western side of the lake to process the ore. So, yeah, I mean, again, when you think about it, I can't imagine Searles Lake being 700 feet deep. That's just mind-boggling.
That is pretty deep.
Anyway.
Okay, the Owens River provided another key ingredient for the formation of evaporites at Searles Lake, an unusually rich array of dissolved minerals. Weathering of volcanic rocks in Owens Valley and the Long Valley caldera, a depression left by a massive volcanic explosion, was a key source of these mineral solutes. Geothermal springs rich in ions of sodium, potassium, and bicarbonate and calcium carbonate in the caldera flow into the Owens River. The operational land imager OLI-2 on Landsat 9 captured the image of Long Valley caldera shown on screen on April 8, 2024. The lower elevation caldera appears brown while the higher elevation hills surrounding it are capped with snow. The Owens River flows southeast from Lake Crowley, a reservoir created by damming the river in 1941.
Again, Lake Crowley is part of the Owens River aqueduct system that traps the water up in the northern Sierra, and then it's just a holding area, but it's a great fishery for those of you who like to trout fish. Through the properties of the evaporite minerals found on asteroid Bennu make clear that they formed in liquid water. The volume of that water is less well understood. Quote, the water on Bennu's parent body may have been in quite small pockets, perhaps a meter thick, surrounded by wet, drying mud. This is said by Tim McCoy, curator of meteorites at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History and co-author of a new report about the evaporites found on Bennu established in Nature.
Quote, we know Bennu's parent body did not have surface lakes or rivers like you see at Searles Lake, said Hannah Kaplan, a planetary geologist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Quote, the water on Bennu's ancestor likely percolated through the subsurface between the pores of rocks and through small fractures in hydrothermal systems. Supporting this idea, images of Bennu obtained by OSIRIS-REx show carbonate veins ranging from 3 to 15 centimeters or 1 to 6 inches on some boulders. The image above shows one of those veins.
Clues to the nature of this ancient water might be found on the dwarf planet. Is that Ceres?
Ceres, yeah.
Ceres, where spacecraft have observed similar evaporite materials or minerals on the surface, and on Enceladus, an icy moon of Saturn that emits plumes of water containing sodium salts. McCoy added on this slide now, when water levels were high at Searles Lake, the lake produced iconic evaporite formations, tall spires of calcium carbonate, like a tufa, which if you're familiar with Mono Lake, there's tufa all around that, which is kind of cool, known as the Trona Pinnacles. Now, I've never seen these Trona Pinnacles before, but that's intriguing. The spires shown above vary in size and shape, and with some rising as high as 140 feet. Whoa, that's a lot higher than the ones at Mono Lake. Yeah. The spires formed over long periods when Searles Lake had high water levels and hot spring water bubbled up, mixed with alkaline waters, and interacted with communities of algae. The otherworldly features have appeared in movies and shows as Star Trek V, Lost in Space, Planet of the Apes, and Battlestar Galactica.
Very fascinating.
Cool, yeah.
So it's pretty cool that this could be happening on other planets and other moons. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Quote, the pinnacles look incredible and are made from calcium carbonate, a mineral we found on Bennu, said McCoy. Quote, but they're different in many ways, cautioned Alfonso Davila, an exobiologist at NASA's Ames Research Center, noting that samples on Bennu were tiny flakes, not large-scale deposits like those on Searles Lake. Mars, the dwarf planet Ceres, and Saturn's moon Titan are other celestial bodies where scientists have discovered large-scale evaporite deposits on the surface, Davila noted. The image above shows a sodium carbonate deposit on Ceres, likely the product of brine spilling across the crater after a meteorite punched a hole into the icy crust.
Cool. Searles Lake, this is a quote, Searles Lake offers important clues, but remember that the journey that the evaporite minerals on Bennu, Ceres, and Enceladus have gone through was likely quite different in some ways than those at Searles, according to Davila. Earth has an atmosphere, life, liquid oceans, and warm temperatures. We can't say all the same about Bennu. And that's from NASA Earth Observatory images by Lauren Dauphin using Landsat data from the U.S. Geological Survey and MODIS data from NASA's EODIS? Mm-hmm. Lance and Gibbs Worldview. I don't know what all this stuff is. Maybe I shouldn't be reading.
These are like the citations, yeah, like where we got the photos from. No, but it's fascinating that this could be happening on other planets. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, and not to go on about the Owens Valley and uh, the valley that is in Ridgecrest, and I forget the name of it right now. But if you go up there, if you have any kind of idea of like we talked about volcanic activity, there's some huge walls there as you go from the Ridgecrest area up into the south end of the Owens Valley, where you can tell that at one time there was some type of uh, glacial activity going on, because these walls of lava just, you could see where the bristle cones are, and you could see where the volcanoes were, and how this flow just stopped and just made this huge wall. And it is really cool to see. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people travel 395 up through that valley and
I've
don't
done
even
it
pay,
many times.
yeah, and they don't even pay attention to that. But it
It
is
is pretty
really,
cool.
it is the volcanic activity up there and the glacial activity just kind of came together there. And you kind of think about, at the beginning of time, right, when the mountains were raising up and there was volcanic activity, and the land was not being habitated yet by man. And so I don't know, you kind of think about videos that maybe we've seen in the past, and it's fascinating to me, all that. And then of course now we have just the beautiful aftermath of it, and then stuff like this, which is, like I said, I had no idea that that water continually flowed that far to the south and then also to the east. So amazing.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We'll catch you in the morning.
Cool topic. Thanks.